Oh, so much better. Alright. Time to finish the monster. What do you think? I think he came out like super cute. Monster. See? What? Oh, what happened? Hello? Alright. What's happening? Either way. Got a little paint on the side from yesterday's boo-boos. We can just scrub that off with my finger. Or a wet rag. Either one will work. There we go. There we go. But yeah, what do you think of him? Gonna add a little bit more of these guys. Some other little, you know, decorative bits. And then gloss him and he'll be done. Uh-oh, what are you doing out? Alright, time to find something to listen to. Members, don't advertise me shit. That is members only if I cannot watch it. What to listen to? Any requests? Sure, we'll try this one. Lost in Yellowstone.
Get a really cool design contract. Realize you have to do a whole bunch of mathy business work before you can even start out mathy design work. Use QuickBooks to see the big picture. Use QuickBooks to manage cash flow. Add some more cash to your flow. Let QuickBooks do more of this, so you can do more of the things you love.
How you guys doing
Enjoy
tonight?
QuickBooks. Manage and grow your business all in one place.
Okay, I need another pointy bit. Right here.
IXL is helping 15 million students succeed in math and language arts. On IXL, your child can stay on track or get ahead by practicing with fun, interactive questions.
It's that missing 1-1 cases happen.
Too long.
This is how. I'm Aiden Mattis, and welcome back to the Lord.
Yeah, it's too long. Also with the wrong end. Alright. I'm not gonna tell it any difference.
There are a lot of fallen trees in Yellowstone. You may read or hear that and think, oh, there's a few fallen trees in Yellowstone, but I really need you to understand that what I mean is that there are entire hillsides covered in nothing but fallen trees. Now, obstacles like this aren't an issue in the modern day, where any trees that fall into a roadway or across a trail can easily be cut or moved by the National Park Service, but back in 1870, that was a bit more of a problem. It was also precisely the kind of problem that led 54-year-old Truman Everts to separate from his group, and the inciting incident for the period he thus referred to in his writing as 37 Days of Peril, the story of the first known missing persons case in America's oldest national park. As with many such stories, this one begins with an utterly unprepared individual going somewhere that he had no business being. Simply put, Truman Everts should not have been in Yellowstone in the first place, but somehow he'd wrangled his way onto the team for an expedition into what was, at the time, completely uncharted territory. Led by Civil War veteran Colonel Henry Dana Washburn, the expedition included such names as Nathaniel Langford, Gustavus Doane, Warren Gillette, among others, all of whom were experienced outdoorsmen and capable explorers, and many of them seasoned battle-tested veterans of the Civil War. Then there was Truman Everts, a nearsighted, inexperienced, semi-literate, overly confident middle-aged tax assessor who wanted to see some waterfalls and geysers up close. Though he had enlisted in the Union Army at the outset of the Civil power.
heat
By
up?
his own
Yeah,
account,
good.
he was laid up for months after the first Battle of Bull Run and never found his way back into combat afterwards. Even living in Montana, he spent most of his time indoors at his offices in Bannock and then Virginia City. He had never gone on an exploratory mission such as the one led by Washburn. He had few, if any, applicable skills, and he likely only made it onto the expedition because Gillette was courting his daughter Bessie, though he did claim to have helped organize it. He was entirely unequipped to be going into the future national park, both physically and mentally, and yet, for some ungodly reason, Washburn and the others allowed him to go off alone when the expedition found itself at an impasse on the south end of Yellowstone Lake in early September of 1870. Now, one thing that I will say I would bring with me if I was going to go missing in Montana is Magic Spoon, today's sponsor. Now, you may be familiar with Magic Spoon's famous cereal, 13 to 14 grams of protein, 0 sugar, and 4 to 5 grams of net carbs in each serving. But you may not be familiar with Magic Spoon treats. These snack-sized little bad boys have 11 to 12 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, and 1 to 2 grams of net carbs. So you can always get the fuel you need on the go. It's actually delicious. It is so good. And I'm actually pretty excited about the timing of this ad because we're about to drive to Montana from Philadelphia, and that means that I'm gonna need some, some protein, some snackums while I'm on the road. That was a little premature, intern, but thank you. And for that, I'm gonna be using Magic Spoon's brand new granola. One thing I also will say is usually I eat my granola with yogurt, but this stuff, you can just kind of eat it as a snack. Now, while this image here on the bag has been enlarged to show texture, it has 13 grams of protein and, again, 0 added sugar, and it comes in delicious flavors like honey almond and peanut butter, and my personal favorite, this is the dark chocolate almond. I love my chalky granola. Personally, my plan is to see how many times I can do this during the road trip. I'm thinking at least 7. And at this point in the ad, you might think I'm eating this because I'm required to, but it's actually just really good. I don't know what to say. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm super excited about the granola because I am trying to lose some weight right now. And this is a great high-protein, 0 added sugar kind of snackum that I can have on me. I myself am Italian and therefore not very carb-conscious as a genetic thing, but if you're carb-conscious, this stuff's good. It's crispy, it's crunchy, it doesn't have chewy stickiness of a protein bar. So, again, seriously, I'm just snacking on this because I like it. I also just looked at the ingredients for the first time, and the first one listed is almonds, which is a great sign. I am super impressed with how good this is. This is some of the best granola I've ever had. I'm gonna take this home and eat it in some cherry yogurt. I mean, seriously, guys, click the link in the description, use code LoreLodge, and give this granola a try.
A little bit more on the
Use our code,
side,
you get
maybe.
$5 off, and you can also find
Just to
Magic
cover
Spoon
that
on Amazon
plastic.
or in your nearest grocery store. And Magic Spoon is so confident in this product, and I really understand why, that it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee online. So if you don't like it for any reason, they will refund your money, no
Burning me! Ah!
Click the link in the description or go to magicspoon.com/lorelodge. Scan the QR code on your screen
Right.
for $5 off your order. Yeah, this is good stuff.
Kind
Wow.
of. What I'm going for. Alright.
The Washburn party had been skirting the lake since their arrival on September 5th, and were making good time until they reached the Continental Divide. They camped at Grouse
This
Creek on
is
the
not
8th and were on their way
shiny.
to another planned campsite at Surprise Creek the following day when they came to an area so flooded with fallen timber that their horses couldn't go any further. According to Everts, in 37 Days of Peril, whenever we came to one of these immense windfalls, each man engaged in the pursuit of a passage through it. And it was while thus employed, and with the idea that I had found one, that I strayed out of sight and hearing of my comrades. If you've been following this channel for a while, well, you've heard that exact kind of thing plenty of times. Everts, it would seem, did not immediately panic over his situation. In fact, he wrote that he was fully confident of soon rejoining the company or of finding their camp. And he even said that he had no doubts of being with the party at breakfast the next morning. So he found himself a comfortable enough place to sleep, ticketed his horse, and laid down for what would be the last remotely comfortable night for months to come. At least that's how it's presented in the polished, edited version of the story published in Scribner's Magazine in 1871. In Everett's private unpublished notes, he gave a much different account of things. He says that his horse became mired and it took him considerable effort to get the animal unstuck. He wrote of being very anxious to catch up with his party before dark, and he camped not because he felt comfortable, but because he literally could not continue onward due to his poor eyesight. The variation between the published account and the unpublished version actually doesn't end there, and indeed it continues throughout the entirety of the narrative. In one, Everts is a courageous, enduring man led onwards by spiritual guidance and a sheer will to live. And in the other, you'll see as we go along. Lack of comforts aside on that first night, there was still at least reason to hope that things might turn out all right. Everett still had his horse, his supplies, and a general sense of where he needed to go in order to catch up with the rest of the group. Unfortunately, the forest was so dense and he so inexperienced that navigating it proved nearly impossible almost immediately. He was constantly dismounting and searching around on foot. His path from the previous day had been covered over by fallen pine needles, and he found himself trying to move from landmark to landmark for the apparent lack of a compass. Why he went into the park without a compass, I genuinely do not know. Anyway, it was during one of his on-foot pathfinding tests that the
done.
worst thing
Just need to wait for him to
happened.
dry.
His horse got
And there he
spooked
is.
and ran off into the wilderness, carrying with it all of his baggage and supplies except for, and I quote, the clothing on a person, a couple of knives, and a small opera glass, by which I believe he was referring to a monocle. He may have been referring to the low-power binoculars typically known by that name, but based on the rest of the story, I'm inclined to believe he was walking around like something of a backwoods Monopoly man. Still, he remained optimistic, not yet realizing the possibility of a permanent separation from the company. By the next day, however, the reality of his situation was settling in. Everts was completely alone, without his horse or his supplies, in an area that neither he nor anyone alive knew well enough to traverse without danger. He only hoped that his companions, following in his footsteps, would come across a series of notices that he had posted to trees in the area in which he'd become lost. Little did he know, Washburn and the others had not only missed the notices, but were at the time still believing he was somewhere along the correct trail. While Everett spent the 10th, the day he lost his horse, somewhere between Channel Mountain and Hart Lake, the rest of the group had found their way through the timber field and made camp at Flat Mountain, where they built a bonfire in hopes that Everts would see the smoke and thus know where to go in order to reach safety. Their actions suggest that Everts had taken a very significant detour, and in fact had gone entirely the wrong direction, because they spent the 11th searching the beaches of Yellowstone Lake for a man who on that same day found himself moving southwest toward Mount Sheridan. Gillette and a soldier named Trumbull spent the night searching the shoreline and leaving notices posted in visible areas, at no point being more than 5 miles from their missing companion. And yet they were totally incapable of figuring out where Everts actually was. It didn't help that Everts, for his part, also had no idea where he was, though he wrote that he intended to traverse the peninsula centrally, by which he meant crossing the area between Flat Mountain and West Thumb, and thereby get ahead of the rest of the party. He somehow ended up traveling southwest instead of northwest. This decision is even more confusing when you read the reports of the other members of the expedition, specifically Langford, as he recalled that when another party member returned to camp after getting lost earlier in the journey, Everts told the man he should have made for the lake shore. Even without a compass, and now without the issue of having to find a path suitable for a pack horse, Everts should have been able to identify which way was north simply by looking at where the sun was, and he could have just
Shake and win millions of prizes with the AliExpress $1 challenge. Get unreal.
Why is there always time to do it a second time, but never time to do it right the first time?
And a $3,000 AliExpress shopping spree. Download, shake, win.
It's mine. The prices blow my mind. I feel so rich. I feel like a billionaire. I'm shopping like a billionaire. I'm shopping like a billionaire. I'm shopping like a billionaire. I get it straight. Time to make it. I'm shopping like a billionaire.
Download the Temu app and shop like a billionaire.
could have just gone that way. And he knew to do that, yet for some unknown reason, he instead went in entirely the opposite direction. And this is one of the many reasons that I think anyone interested in stories of people going missing in the woods or in hiking the backcountry themselves should read this story. Sometimes people just make utterly inconceivable choices and get themselves even more lost as a result. It doesn't help that the entire account is confused regarding the dates of September 11th through the 13th. Well, and really most of the other dates in the story, but historian Lee Whittlesley argues that Everts traversed from the point where he lost the horse down to the lake between the 10th and the 11th, while Everts himself describes reaching that lake on the 12th. And even more head-scratching is the exact location of one of the first truly horrifying aspects of his ordeal, which again his own writing places on the 11th, while Whittlesley places it on the 13th. The event in question occurred on one of those nights, either before or after Everts reached the small lake beneath Mount Sheridan, at a moment when 37 days suggests the man had once again found his optimism. Having gone days without food, Everts finally came across a patch of elk thistle, and desperate as he was, he took to eating the roots of the plant raw just to get something into his stomach. After feasting as much as he was able, he'd fallen asleep under a tree, only to wake suddenly sometime later. "How long I slept I know not," he wrote, "but suddenly I was roused by a loud, shrill scream, like that of a human being in distress, poured, seemingly, into the very portals of my ear." It was a mountain lion. For the first time since getting separated from the group, Everts did something rational. He scrambled up the nearest tree, climbing as high as he felt he could safely go, just in time to look down and see the savage beast snuffing and growling below. With no weapons and well aware that cats can climb trees, he began to scream at the animal, throw branches down at it, and pray that it would decide he just wasn't worth the effort before he became a delicious midnight snack. A fate we should hope befalls more tax assessors. Still, nothing was working, so he went for the next best option and began to aggressively shake the very tree atop which he was sitting as violently as he possibly could. And once again, we should not be surprised at the lack of intelligence coming from a tax collector. In the end, Everts' last option was to hope he might convince the lion that he was a different kind of primate, preferably the sort that can swing easily from tree to tree, and stay as still as possible in order to make the predator think he wasn't there. Miraculously, it seems to have worked, and after an uncertain period of time, the lion gave up to seek prey less capable of climbing trees. Or at least prey not actively in a tree at the present moment. Now, the edited account makes it seem as though this was an all-night affair, and it likely felt that way to Everts, but he was more realistic in describing the encounter as lasting around half an hour in his unpublished work. As for whether it happened on the 11th into the 12th, or the 12th into the 13th, that is a little bit more difficult to say, though only relevant to whether or not it transpired before or after he reached Heart Lake. Whatever the case, Everts did reach that lake on either the 11th or 12th, and it was a very welcome sight to the lost man. Surrounded by thermal features such as hot springs and geysers, the perpetual heat and steam rising from the ground made this area into a livable oasis in the midst of the rapidly worsening autumn weather around him. He'd endured one hailstorm already, and in many places the snow was piling up 10 to 12 inches high. But here he could be kept warm, so long as he didn't set foot into any of the near-boiling pools of sulfuric water, which have been known to dissolve bodies in just 24 hours. It wasn't safe, but it was better than wandering around in a predator-infested forest with no supplies and nothing to keep out the cold. At least it seemed that way for the first couple of days. Things were going well enough, as he'd realized he could use his opera glass to concentrate sunlight enough to make a fire, and could thus stay both warm and dry instead of taking a perpetual steam bath. There were plenty of elk thistles around to eat, and they could be roasted or boiled to add some flair, while the encrusted earth above the hot springs made for a very cozy place to sleep at night. He planned to stay a few days, gather his strength, and then press on, only for yet another misfortune to befall him as he slept one night. It was his third evening at Heart Lake, and he'd been fast asleep when an unlucky movement broke the crust on which I reposed, and the hot steam, pouring upon my hip, scalded it severely before I could escape. This broke the illusion of safety rather quickly, and over the next few days, Everts tended to his wounds while he prepared to set out for the shores of Yellowstone Lake, which is of course what he should have done in the first place. By this point, he had somehow managed to lose both of his knives, but now made a convenient substitute by sharpening the tongue of a buckle. which he used to cut off the calves of his boots in order to make slippers. And this right here is yet another example of the edited version not making much sense and departing from the original, in which Everts still repurposed his boots, but only because the heels have become damaged while climbing a mountain that he'd yet to get to in this version. And the identity of the mountain in question is actually also a matter of some debate, as is the day on which Everts set out.
Gold-crusted bullshit sealed. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were there. Hello, what are you making? Is that a force? It looks hard, not gonna lie. Well, hi! Sorry, I didn't see you there. I'm just trying to make this little, like, whatchamacallit, marine scene with the mermaid into something pretty you can put on a shelf. But I don't think it really worked. But I tried. It looks a little bit better than it did. See a mermaid? All the shells and the pearls and the gold. Anyway, that's done. Well, it does need a hot soap, but I can get that one for us.
Also attempt to retrace his steps back to where he got lost.
Now we're on to finishing the next project, which is this one.
Of course, had he gone that way, he almost certainly would have people searching for him because they knew
I can't back it up
in the
enough.
first place. But instead, he chose to cross the country between the southern shore of Yellowstone Lake and the Madison Mountains, by scaling which I could easily reach the settlements in the Madison Valley. This route, encumbered by the single obstruction of the mountain barrier, was much the shortest, and thus he decided to set off towards the valley some 40 miles to the northwest by heading northeast. Now, this should not surprise anyone at this juncture. Like I said, Whittlesley offers the suggestion that he might have gone to Chicken Ridge, but that would be nearly due east of his campsite on the lake, and it's a little too far inland for the description. Flat Mountain better fits that description, being both at least slightly in the right direction, and particularly tall compared to its immediate surroundings. Getting there, however, was no picnic. He spent the night before reaching this spot alone in the forest, hearing the howls and screams of various animals throughout the night as he struggled to keep warm by his fire, and when he finally did manage to fall asleep, he ended up also falling into the fire, and inflicted a wretched burn on his hand. But the following morning, when he finally crested the peak of the mountain and saw the lake before him, it must have seemed as though he was delivered at last. He was, in fact, never more lost.
Staples can help you crush
I should glue this back in. Looks good. Looks like I will crawl on my bed. Looks like it will crawl on it. It might. I mean, he's very friendly. He loves warm hugs. He just wants to snuggle with your bones. Don't worry about it.
Low energy.
Oh, got my drippies going. Now, I need to make more. What else did I got? Alright, I got a Yoda. How can I absolutely make him into somebody that'll ruin child's nightmares?
At the mouth of the Heart River. They were just a couple of miles from Everts' camp. By an utterly incomprehensible coincidence, they had found themselves there at one of the few times when the man they were looking for wasn't at home. His fire lay cold, so without any smoke to alert them to his presence, the trio of riders continued onward down the Snake River, and Everts had no clue he'd come so close to rescue. This spoke to his lack of experience, and modern readers and viewers can take away one very important lesson from this particular
How did you make little jackalopes?
Stay put. Had Everett simply remained in one place, really at any juncture since he lost the group, he would almost certainly have been rescued within the first week or two that he was missing. In fact, searchers were actively looking for him in the very places he'd been since the moment he disappeared. He just kept staying a little bit too far ahead of them. For that reason, and really that alone, he was left to find his own way. With a lighted brand in my hand, I effected a most difficult and arduous descent of the abrupt and stony island to the lake, of the afternoon to reach Yellowstone Lake, the remainder of which he spent putting together a fire
I'm
on
working
the
on
beach.
Charizard.
Just about ready to settle in for what should have been a relatively pleasant night.
Is there another
when he
one that will
realized with
crawl
horror
on my
that something
bathroom?
was missing.
I don't do
On reaching the
bathroom
soft sand
guys at the
beneath
moment.
headland, he had taken off the makeshift slippers he'd crafted from his boots while encamped by Heart Lake and fixed them to
This
his
one needs a new
belt.
set of jaws.
At some point
Hang
during
on.
the process of gathering wood for his fire, however, one of them had slipped out, and he now faced the horrible prospect of having to make the rest of this trek out of the wilderness with only one shoe. So, rather than resting, he retraced all of his steps from the previous several hours. Fearful that it had been dropped into the lake and had been carried off by some recurrent wave of recovery, he wrote, My search for an hour among fallen trees and brushes, up the hillside and along the beach, in darkness and with flaming brands, at one moment crawling on hands and feet into a brush heap, another peering among the logs and bushes and stones, was filled with anxiety and mystery. Finally, quote, nearly lost, Everts found his missing slipper hanging from a tree branch, which had nefariously scooped it from his belt, and with a feeling of great relief, he sat down in the sand, my back to a log, and listened to the dash and roar of the waves as they ushered him into what he described as the most restful sleep he'd ever enjoyed. Of course, the entire story about losing his slipper is absent from his unpublished account, and in fact, that version explicitly says he'd made the slippers that day, rather than back at Park Lake, but the editor who prepared the published version clearly had a knack for crafting a more exciting narrative than
I do need to make something with more tentacles.
Whatever the case, we know that Everts' next day was the first truly good one in a while. Rather than risking the wilderness again, he stuck to the shore of the lake, following as it curved north and west around the southern section of the lake's western portion. In the course of doing so, he eventually found himself at one of the Washburn Party's camps, though precisely which one is hard to say, and excitedly looked around for any supplies that his companions might have left behind. Unfortunately, he found only a dinner fork and a yeast powder can, and lamented to himself that his companions hadn't thought to leave him any food. In fact, they had, just not at this particular camp. This may be why Whittlesley argues that Everts found his way to the West Thumb camp occupied by the party from the 12th through the 16th, rather than the one from the night of the 11th, the latter of which seems to track better with the timeline described by Everts. Either way, he was at least on the right track, having found his way to the lake and to a campsite, and all he had to do was follow in the footsteps of his friends. That, however, proved harder than he'd anticipated, and his story doesn't really give any good explanation as to why. In the published version, he wrote that, carefully inspecting the faint traces left out of the course of their travel, I became satisfied that from some cause they had made a retrograde movement from the camp and departed from the lake at some point further downstream. It would appear what he meant by this is that the party had doubled back for some reason, potentially an obstruction in their path. His unpublished material says nothing about this whatsoever, nor does it line up with the passage from 37 Days of Peril, in which he claims to have returned to the campsite and to have built his own shelter from pine boughs. A shelter which caught fire that night as he slept.
Jesus Christ, this guy.
But in the unpublished, the shelter had been built by the Washburn Party, and he was simply occupying it. Regardless of who built the shelter, the fire was still a pretty big problem, though. The dried boughs went up quickly, and the same wind which had carried embers from the campfire he neglected to douse before going to sleep picked up even more of the burning particles and brought them into the forest. And remember how at the beginning I mentioned that
Is it hard to make those DIY things? I think it's just practice. Not being afraid to make mistakes and learning how to use your mistakes as decoration.
Woke Everts, who, with singed hair and a burned left hand, quickly scrambled to escape towards the
I like
water.
that. He's got some drippies coming off him at the bottom. Looks lovely. That's what I was kind of going for. I made some drippies for the mouth, so I knew they'd be the right size.
That he'd had any success at fishing, or that the knife had actually been useful in any material way. Maybe it was sort of a Tom Hanks in Castaway situation where he was buddies with the inanimate objects. Maybe it was just the editor embellishing things to give the story a Robin Sweet Rousseau feeling, or maybe it's Maybelline, but I'm going to go with it being the latter. I say that not only because of the flowery language, but also because this entire section of the story is told very differently in the unpublished version, where the edited version describes the grandeur of the burning forest.
The first thing I'm going to do is put the black paint on.
Following the tops the lofty trees of an almost impenetrable pine forest.
DIY is definitely, could be easy, could be hard. It depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. Hello?
Hi, Al. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. How are you?
Good. Bad day at work?
It was long for the patients. Like there's 8, 6, 10-hour waits. Yeah.
I went back up to Georgia this morning,
Yeah.
and I got one photo of it, but I didn't dare to put the whole works on, so I went back. Me and I we got the rest.
Oh, nice.
I got it all piled up, and then I went home and I brought the compressor out,
Mm-hmm.
and the compressor,
Yeah.
and then I came back here and then piled all the rest of the wood.
Nice.
So George, he had to work at the garage because the guy is one of the mechanics has gone to university or something?
Yep, I remember.
I hear the helicopter again.
Yeah, I've heard it a lot. It's Wharf Rat Rally, and I guess there's been some accidents I saw on Facebook.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yep, so hopefully nothing too bad, just some broken bikes, some broken bones, and that's about it, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll talk to you in the morning.
Not in the morning, I'm gonna be at work, remember?
Alright.
Talk to you in the afternoon. That bag of toys out by the front door, or the back door, I need to take those to the laundromat, that's why they're, sir. If you're ambitious.
No, Holly ain't.
Yeah.
George myself be here first thing in the morning. Don't get that end finished.
Alright then.
Alright. Talk to you later.
Alright,
Love you.
love you too. That was my mommy. I'm just saying goodnight.
Lighting up with lurid gloom and glare the surrounding scenery of lake and mountains, which fills the beholder with mingled feelings of awe and astonishment, the unpublished account simply reads, "But I was not to have so much comfort, for in the night came up a strong wind, and before I could help myself this fire was blown into my brush, and set it on fire, and with difficulty I escaped without getting burned." I won't dwell on this too long, but I do have to giggle a bit at the sheer difference in vocabulary and grammar between the two versions. While it shouldn't escape a reader that the published version has our hero burning the same hand in the same way at least 2 times, and the unpublished version says he escaped this particular fire unharmed, I also want to point out that the edited account uses terms like long forked tongues and sheets of flame, while the unedited uses the word fire twice in only 11 words, and 4 times in the entire run-on sentence from which I was quoting. Clearly, someone at the paper felt like Everts was lacking in his abilities as an author, and took quite a bit of creative license in editing the man's story, to the point where it often approaches narrative fiction in substance. The unpublished account does give us some clarity on the fishing gear, however, as Everts wrote that their destruction burned any hope of appeasing my hunger with fish. It's actually an incredibly human moment in the story, because it shows that it wasn't about the items having been useful, but about the hope that he derived from having them.
Hey everyone, my name is Jackie, the product planner for Volkswagen Canada, and today I'm here to
From having them. The unedited narrative also gives us another reason to be confused about where Everts actually was when this happened, and what the chronology was, because in one he'd already doubled back towards the camp on the shore, while in the other he was following a trail westward through the snow until it literally melted away. Regardless of which it was, we know that Everts was actually following the rest of the party up to this point, and that after the fire he resigned himself to heading north rather than trying to head west towards the Madison Range as previously planned. Precisely why he made that decision, though, differs significantly between the two accounts. In the unpublished, it was very simple. He worried that if another snowstorm hit while he was traveling west, he'd be stuck. In the published version, on the other hand, he is Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back. But Aiden, that movie wouldn't come out for another 107 years, you say. You would be correct. That doesn't change the fact that 37 Days of Peril insists that after 2 days of struggling through the dense evergreen forest, while Everts was thus considering whether to remain and search for a passage or return to the Yellowstone, he experienced one of those strange hallucinations which many of my friends have misnamed insanity, but which to me was providence. Everts explained that an old clerical friend, for whose character and counsel I had always cherished a peculiar regard, in some unaccountable manner seemed to be standing before me. One can almost picture Everts lying there in the snow, freezing and alone, being told by this ghostly religious figure to go to the Yellowstone system. Sadly, that is not what this unnamed spirit said to him, though it wasn't all that far off. "Go back immediately, as rapidly as your strength will permit," Frontier Obi-Wan Kenobi told Everts. "There is no food here, and the idea of scaling these rocks is madness." Everts, stubborn as he was, replied, "Doctor, the distance is too great. I cannot live to travel it." The spirit, also apparently a doctor, told him to get up and get moving, but Everts knew that strange ghosts standing in forests distributing advice is no basis for a system of wilderness survival. He was convinced that just over these rocks, a few miles away, he would find friends. Though the rocks just a few miles away were in fact steep mountain peaks 9,000 to 10,000 feet tall, and they were actually a good 20 miles away. But valiantly, he told his ghost friend that, as a last trial, It seems to me I can but attempt to scale this mountain or perish in the effort, if so God wills. Don't think of it, replied the ghost of Yellowstone present. Your power of endurance will carry you through. I will accompany you. Put your trust in heaven. Help yourself and God will help you. Now, this line of argument, along with the cryptic mention of other persuasions, was apparently enough to drive Everts to make the decision to return to the lake. And he also reportedly found himself delighted with the idea of having a traveling companion. That companion stuck with him as he meandered back to the water, manifesting now and again whenever he questioned the decision to change his route. And while I am a religious man myself, and certainly willing to believe that an angel appeared to Everts in the form of a familiar face in order to direct him towards salvation, there is certainly also evidence within the story that Everts was losing his marbles. That evidence comes later in the story, though, after he made his way along the lakeshore until he eventually reached the debouche of the river. By this, it's believed that he meant the point where the Yellowstone River flows out of the lake at modern-day Fishing Bridge to begin its journey north towards its junction with the Missouri River in western North Dakota. How he got there, on the other hand, is extremely difficult to say. His own writing seems to suggest that he returned to the party's original route and retraced it, which would have taken him along the southern shore and then up the eastern side, and his unpublished writing explicitly says that 3 days' travel brought me to the south end of the lake, where I got into the trail of our party when we were going into the park and near the Great Falls. The problem is that the Great Falls, the upper and lower falls of the Yellowstone, are actually a good distance north of the lake, and historians seem to believe that he actually was heading north along the western side of the body of water. And I gotta say that the number of times this man gives the wrong cardinal direction or goes the wrong cardinal direction leads me to believe that even if he did have a compass, he still would have gotten lost. Whatever the case, everything appeared to finally be moving in the right direction when yet another disaster struck.
Jesus Christ.
After bedding down one night, long after losing track of how many days it had been since he was last in the company of other humans, and apparently after he'd made it to the point where the river flows out of the lake and as far down as the Great Falls, he faced an entire day where the sun refused to emerge from behind the clouds. With no sun, he had no way to make fire, and thus he spent much of the night shivering and trying to fend off the numbness which crept through his freezing body. Light was just beginning to peek over the mountains to the east, and as he rose to greet the day, he found that his right arm was completely paralyzed from the cold. Fearing lest paralysis should suddenly seize upon the entire system, he wrote, I literally dragged myself through the forest to the river. Once there, he awaited the arrival of the sun, praying that he would be able to make fire and warm his frostbitten limbs before they were lost for good. Those prayers were answered, and as soon as he was able, he kindled a fire using the opera lens, and sat beside it for several hours as he slowly regained feeling in his extremities. He was beside the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, probably beneath the towering peak of Mount Washburn, which I myself have now climbed twice and have no desire to climb again. It's not even that bad of a hike, I just really don't like heights. Having been there, though, I can't even imagine what it would have been like to sit below it, knowing how far there is to go between the entrance to the canyon and the relative safety of the valleys beyond the mountains. And Everts also faced another stumbling block here, as my old friend and advisor, the ghost doctor, whose presence I had felt more than seen the last few days, now forsook me altogether. In his place, a new set of companions appeared, and at this point it's clear that Everts was slipping into complete delusion. By some process which I was too weak to solve, he wrote, my arms, legs, and stomach were transformed into so many
I'm gonna have to wait till she
traveling
dries.
with whom
So
he
probably
wrote
tomorrow.
long
I'm gonna
conversing.
put her
Now, I have
coat
been
of
cold, hungry,
varnish
and
on it.
tired, but I have never been so
And,
cold,
yeah.
hungry, and tired that my limbs and
This one
stomach
came out
manifested
very good. I'm very
evaporations
happy how
to
this one
complain
came
about
out.
my
So let's
inability
go
to
make
sustain
another.
them. And yet, complain they did. Everts was apparently tormented by these ghostly figures, all of which seemed to constantly beg him to rest or eat or do any other number of things other than keep trudging onwards towards what he hoped was civilization. And Everts even commented in the story about how, they would eat and they would sleep, but helping with any of the chores. And you're like, okay, buddy. Now, of all of these figures, the stomach was apparently the worst of them, always insatiable and yet eager to reject any real food he managed to find. He could eat his roots just fine, but on the occasion that he managed to find and catch a few minnows by hand, he ended up throwing them right back up, which caused the stomach ghost to accuse him of poisoning himself. Everts thought that some mineral in the water poisoned the fish. Potentially, I would assume he meant sulfur. But in reality, his body was probably just rejecting this new food after subsisting on roots for so long. He pressed onward nonetheless, thinking only of the single being on whom my holiest affections centered, his daughter. It was the wish to see her again that kept him going, even as the days grew shorter and colder, and as the landscape stretched on in an endless series of canyons, peaks, and ridges. Here nature seemed to taunt him, offering him the most beautiful scenery in all this bountiful game, but being nearsighted and without his rifle, he was unable to make use of any of it. Still, he forced himself to continue, and the next experience of note came as he approached Tower Fall at the northern foot of Mount Washburn. It must have been October by this point, though the most anyone can do based off Everts' writing is speculate, and the sheer desperation of his situation is evident through his decision-making. One afternoon, he wrote, I came upon a large hollow tree, which, from the numerous tracks around it and the matted foliage in the cavity, I recognized as the den of a bear. Now, the rational thing to do during the very last days before bear hibernation season begins is to avoid bear dens entirely. Everts, however, saw an opportunity at shelter, and despite his previous mishaps with fire, decided that his best bet would be to gather as much brush as possible and light not one, but several small fires around this dead tree in order to discourage any animals from approaching. Shockingly, it actually worked without burning down the forest again, and he managed to get a night of unbroken sleep for the first time in a while. The next day, he spent the first half of the day in capturing a grasshopper, and the remainder in a fruitless effort to catch a mess of trout. He failed to catch any fish, however, and wrote that in the agony of disappointment, I resolved to fish no more. Instead, he would challenge himself to live only on roots. He left the falls the next day, probably following the present course of Grand Loop Road, until he came to the precipitous side of the canyon, which Whittlesey identifies as being the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. And here we have yet another major problem with the published account, because basically everything I've just said contradicts the unpublished one. It's not that the material is absent, but more that the chronology doesn't match. There is no mention of the ghostly companions, whether they be doctors, limbs, or organs. The bear den incident
His limbs or
before
organs.
he even reached the Grand Canyon, let alone Tower Fall, and his reaching and scaling down this precipitous side of the canyon occurred briefly after that, and the paralyzed arm seems to have occurred before the grizzly den. Does any of that really matter in the grand scheme of things? Not really, but it does tell us that the published version of the story may have even been rearranged for narrative consistency, without regard for the actual geography of the group. Whatever the real chronology was, and it's entirely possible Joyce himself didn't know after everything he endured, the ordeal wasn't over. It may have happened earlier than the published account suggests, but one of the last turns for the worse was the loss of his opera glass. Everts, knowing he would die without the ability to make fire, trace miles of his path in the hopes of recovering it, and it would appear that he did so all the way back at the foot of Mount Washburn. He kept pressing on, though, and at some point he must have left the canyon behind and headed northwest, apparently trying to retrace the trail by which they'd come into the park. This took him to the western slope of Crest Hill, where I think it's best to switch perspectives.
The haunted house is done.
Reprogram your chakras to restore health back into your body. There's a material component to them, an immaterial component, and they are very real. And as people begin to get better at reprogramming them, they begin to notice significant changes in their health as well as their life. We've done extensive research to show that people can do this in a very short amount of time. 80% of the people that had their brain measured had more than 90% change in
Perspectives.
No, these are not dry enough to get the handle, and I don't want to ruin
Early
them.
efforts to find Everts had
Those
been
are going in
successful.
here.
He was still a long-time federal official, and had enough connections to ensure that people would continue looking for him at least until winter made the way in and out of the park impassable. A reward was posted for his recovery,
have any
and
more
one of the men who
hairs
set
that I
off in
can
hopes of earning the $600
butcher?
prize was a Scottish explorer and prospector named Collins John H. Baronet, or Jack Baronet as he was generally known to others. He'd also eventually get the nickname Yellowstone Jack, which is just awesome. According to Park Superintendent P.W. Norris, Baronet and a companion named George Pritchett had arrived in Helena the day that the reward was announced, and they didn't hesitate to make their way into the park. On October 16th, they were making their way deeper in, east of Mammoth Hot Springs, when Baronet's dog picked up a trail. By looking closely, Baronet wrote, "I saw that something had dragged itself upon the ground. Thinking that it could be the trail of a wounded animal, he, Pritchett, and the dog followed it for about a mile, until suddenly the dog began to growl. Baronet looked across a small canyon ahead of him, and spied a black object upon the ground, which he at first believed to be a bear. My first impulse was to shoot him from where I stood," he wrote, "but as he was going so slowly, I saw that I should have no difficulty in overtaking him, and crossed over to where he was." His description of what came next illustrates the true extent of Everts' suffering, and for the first time from a more reliable narrator. "When I got near it, I found it was not a bear, and for the life of me could not tell what it was. It did not look like an animal that I had seen, and it was certainly not a human being. It never occurred to me that it was Everts. I went up close to the object, and it was making a low groaning noise, crawling along upon its hands and elbows, and trying to drag itself up the mountain. Only after a few perplexed minutes did Baronet finally understand what he was looking at, and the stunned explorer simply asked, 'Everts?' The man before him did not answer. Later, General W.E. Strong would recall how Baronet described Everts in that moment to him during a private discussion. His body was reduced to skin and bones, his eyesight nearly gone, and he was unable to speak as he scoured the ground in search of grasshoppers or insects to eat. Not far off, Baronet had killed a mountain lion, and realized that it had probably been stalking Everts, and would likely have killed him that day had he not come along. According to Baronet's own writing, he was able to lift Everts' entire body onto his shoulder with only one arm, so emaciated as the man had become. Poor fellow, Baronet wrote, he was nothing but a shadow. His flesh was all gone, the bones protruded through the skin on the balls of his feet and thighs, and his fingers looked like bird's claws. Everts' rescuers carried him down to what Baronet referred to as the Gardner River, though in reality it was probably one of the creeks surrounding Crescent Hill, or perhaps it was the Yellowstone itself. From there, he was brought to a cabin on Turkey Pen Peak, where Baronet attempted to restore him to coherence by using tea and small amounts of food. Meanwhile, Pritchett rode on to Fort Ellis, now in Bozeman, Montana, to request a doctor and an ambulance be sent down to treat and recover Everts, who was himself in no condition to travel. And one thing that I just realized I forgot to put into the script, but that is in the story, is a hunter came along at one point while they were down there, and gave him a pint of rendered bear fat to drink, and he drank it. He drank a pint of rendered bear fat. This is a man who threw up when he tried to eat a couple of minnows, but he drank a pint of bear fat. Like, I'm sure there's a reason that works. A pint of bear fat. Anyway, according to the witness accounts, Everts had in some places worn his body down to the bone, carried several severe burns from fires and hot springs, and was frostbitten where he wasn't burned. All in all, Whittlesey writes, he was a thoroughly wasted and irrational being. A description which I personally find to be redundant, as we already know he was a tax collector. Everts, for his part, had a different and yet certainly fanciful version of events. The unpublished material is more realistic than the published, though it suggests he was far more coherent than his rescuers reported. As far as the published and edited account goes, you'd think that Everts was still in perfect control of his faculties. After hearing his ghostly friend encouraging him to struggle on, he became suddenly sensible of a sharp reflection, as of burnished steel, and looking up through half-closed eyes, two rough but kindly faces met my gaze. His version of that conversation is as follows, beginning with the inquiry, "Are you Mr. Everts?" "Yes, all that is left of him. We have come for you." "Who sent you?" "Judge Lawrence and other friends. God bless him, and you, and them. I am saved." And after speaking that last line, he claimed to have collapsed into unconsciousness. His rescuers apparently managed to rouse him, made camp on the spot, and then Pritchett took off for Fort Ellis. Now, none of that really lines up with the accounts given by the rescuers, and is probably the work of a very clever and narratively inclined editor. Everts' more grounded and unedited writing describes how he was looking for a good place to die when Baronet and Pritchett found him, and how all he could really say in response to their inquiry about his identity was, "Mr. Everts, what there is left of me." Then he managed to get out, "I'm freezing, make a fire." The men did so, wrapped him in blankets, and he then asked if they had anything to eat or drink. They didn't, but they told him that down the mountain they had some flour, sugar, and coffee, which they could share with him if they could get him down. His version also suggests that they were actually much further west than Crescent Hill, but to be honest, I have compared and contrasted every account of this story I could find, and it doesn't seem like anyone knows for sure where all of this went down. It was somewhere between Mammoth Hot Springs and Tower Fall, but that's really all that can be said for certain. Another thing that can be said for certain is that Everts should have been left in the park, because he may be the most ungrateful missing person to be rescued that I have ever read about. You see, when Baronet and Pritchett returned with a living, breathing Everts, a man who went on to live another 30 years after making a living by stripping hardworking Americans of their wealth as a tax assessor, they expected to receive that $600 reward. Instead, the friends of Everts, who had offered the reward, refused to pay it. And when Jack Baronet eventually went directly to Everts a few years later, he was received so coldly by his rescuee that the mountaineer disgustedly commented to others that he wished he had let the son of a gun roam. It's hard to disagree with Baronet's reasoning. Why Judge Lawrence refused to pay is unclear. Maybe he and his friends expected that Everts would never be found, and so the reward was intended more as a symbolic gesture. Regardless, paid, but at least the former had a mountain named after him, although the name is misspelled, for his troubles. Everts, on the other hand, undeservedly was offered the superintendentship of Yellowstone National Park when it was created 2 years after his ordeal, and after his account was published in Scribner's Magazine in 1871. The issue had done quite a bit to generate buzz about the new park, but Everts turned the position down because it didn't pay enough. He ended up in charge of a smaller park in Rockcastle Springs, faded into obscurity, and is thus remembered only for the series of remarkably stupid decisions which led him to get so deeply lost, and for the sheer dumb luck which brought him to rescue. Now, all of that said, I would say this is one of the only missing person stories from Yellowstone.
5 things on the steps. I'm doing good.
Doesn't end with the person
This drawers, I can put a top coat on it, and that'll be 6.
I tried very hard to find Yellowstone missing 411
Not plushies,
stories,
though.
and the only ones I could find were like poachers who were on the edge of the park. There really aren't that many stories of people just disappearing in Yellowstone.
You're so cute.
And that's not to say
Let's
there
ruin
aren't
that.
stories of people getting lost, because there are plenty of those. It's just that the National Park Service, and specifically the rangers in Yellowstone, are really, really good at their job of finding people. That, and it's also really difficult to get lost in the touristy parts of Yellowstone. A lot of the trails are paved, and they're at the very least on the road. It's really not like back.
Oh, we got a little tongue.
All the trails that we were on,
Some of the vintage ones are
you
fun.
would have to deliberately go off trail in order to end up off trail.
Okay.
It wasn't like when we were climbing Mount Marathon, and this isn't a national park, but it wasn't like when we were climbing Mount Marathon in Alaska, and at the bottom of that mountain, there's just like, there's false trails everywhere. They're all over. Here, when we were in Yellowstone, we were walking around, we're like, oh, okay, nice big broad trails. Comfortable hiking up to the top of the mountain because of how wide the trail was and the parts that had, you know,
I'm just looking for
mountains, guys. I do not like mountains. I like looking at them. I like the concept. Don't like being on them. I think my favorite mountains is the valleys. The valleys are cool.
Well, technically, those are the ones. Shake, yeah, whatever.
Won't be a cult. Anyway, if you want to help us to fulfill our dream of getting a radio, not a cult.
Do I have one more pair? One. And one. Shit, turtles. Goddamn mother hunter.
You know, you can also purchase our coffee now, Pocono Park, Capital Roasting Company. The link to that is in the description. You can also purchase our merch, which has our logos on it, and it's really soft and comfy, and it's made there. The best place to get updates on what's going on your channel when we come out.
There's all the friggin' thumbtacks I was looking for yesterday.
/join lodge, or again, the link is
Sand. No lid for that bastard.
We also have a live show that
Penis.
is usually
Nope.
live at Monday night. If you're watching this the week that it came out, you're going to be like, hey,
Well,
where's the live show been?
we'll
We
do
were
this in a bit.
Montana. And then we got
This
our
is
own
road order
Nintendo.
another pack, I
And if
guess.
you're not accustomed to live, there's another reason. Now you know. It's not me and Wig. It's a whole other person. Or at least 5 feet 6 inches of another person. Anyway, yeah, the live show is usually Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, but if it's not, we will tell you that it's not going to be live.
Thank you for the thumbs up before you head
You
out.
can also
Always
catch the
appreciate
live
it.
show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, 2 days after it goes live on YouTube. So that's Wednesday
Thanks to
morning.
talking about it. I'm not even listening.
And what else do we have? We also have other shows like History Unhinged that we do with Stakui and The Weird Bible, which I am working on 2 new shows for the Weird Bible channel. And also, hopefully, we
I
will kick
watched
the
all of
podcast again at
these.
some point. It's hard. It's hard to link schedule.
Sure.
Roblox has a knockoff problem. If you search for any successful Roblox title, you'll find dozens, even hundreds of other poorly made knockoff versions trying to capitalize off their success. However, occasionally, a game that might have started as just another clone will grow and develop into its own thing, with new mechanics, new creatures, and of course, new lore. And today, we're going to be diving into the lore of one of those successes, Pressure. Hello Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's here to kick down doors and make theories. And I'm all out of doors. Not to worry though, because between the releases of the classic Roblox game Doors, another challenger entered the ring to try its hand at the door-opening horror genre. I am of course talking about Pressure. You guys have been begging me to check out this game for months, and you really seem to like our recent Roblox theory, so I figured it was time to finally dive in and see what all the hype was about. Sorry it took me so long. Pressure is a multiplayer horror game that tasks you with navigating a series of randomized passageways, obstacles, and monsters one door at a time. So it's just the same as Doors, right? Wrong, because this time it's underwater.
Twisted Tea fans love summer and the smooth, refreshing taste of Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Made with real brewed tea and just the right kick of lemon flavor. But don't take our word for it. Ask our fans. Twisted Tea. Good times with a twist.
Old Navy, the destination for
Slouchy. Extra high. Barrel. And vintage slim.
At these prices, I've them all.
It's Old Navy.
Well, and it has a ton of new monsters that introduce new mechanics to the genre. Things like dodging the feet of giant mechanoid monsters in the open ocean while solving puzzles, digging for research files while hiding from anglers. Oh, so many anglers. And instantly regretting activating the imaginary friend remote, which meant having to ignore this guy for the rest of my playthrough. This game is just oozing with atmosphere and interesting details. And you know what that means? Lore. But I'm here with my theory jar to scoop it all up. So slap on your scuba suits, theorists, and take a deep breath as we literally dive into the murky depths of Roblox Pressure. From the beginning of the game, we
Do I
learn
have
that we
any
are
horns I
an
can use
inmate
on this
of a
guy?
high security. A corporation called Urban Shade is looking for volunteers to retrieve a crystal that they were unable to secure in their recent security breach of their facility, the Hadal Black Site. If we are able to return the crystal and any other classified documents that were lost in the breach, we'll be pardoned of all of our crimes and, get this, we'll even receive a cash reward. Sounds like a sweet deal. Well, until we're greeted with this message in big red letters that says, you are expendable. You are not expected to return. So, just your standard HR message, really. No, Rachel, please, I'm sorry. But, of course, we didn't log in expecting hugs and dental plans. And I'm pretty sure the monsters in the vents definitely skipped orientation anyway. From here, we convicts pile into a submarine and dive
Kind of yellow.
We get out
You
of the
guys any
submarine.
good? I need to give you guys another as well.
Is for
These are tiny, tiny ones. These get too sharp, so I can't really use them too much. use them eventually. It just takes me a while.
As currency, all with the goal of getting to the next door. And the deeper we go,
This
the
good.
worse it gets. We avoid
Good.
giant feet of underwater
Was good, never
monsters
mind.
with anger
Drop the damn
issues. We
thing.
repair equipment while being hunted
Still
by
good.
fish
Alright.
laden squid monsters, and eventually
Give
we
another
reach
coat
the
and then
control
the top
which
coat.
houses the oh so precious crystal that's just floating there in the middle of the room like it wants to be stolen. We yank it out, repair even more cables, load into a submarine, and launch out of the facility, ultimately ending up with a black screen that says we delivered the crystal to a, quote, old, decrepit, and disgusting looking man in a wheelchair. Our record has been expunged, and the money has been delivered into an account for our use. Whew, that was a lot to unpack, but you can see what I mean about how this isn't just another Doors clone. It adds a lot of very interesting elements that differentiate it. However, there is one more thing that they do share. A lot of unanswered questions. Like, where the heck are we in all of this? Who is Urban Shade? What is the significance of the crystal? And most importantly, how the heck does this guy fit through those vents with that giant eel whale tail? That last one keeps me up at night most of all. But I think I have a big enough shovel to unearth the answers to these questions. Let's start with the classic game theory starting question. Where are we? Sure, we're underwater in a military bunker sort of situation, but there is a glaring detail that doesn't make that explanation quite so straightforward. Throughout the game, we're often put into situations where we need to go dive outside of the facility. I mean, for the final fight, we're running away from giant squid monsters in an extraordinarily deep part of the ocean. And it's worth noting that being at those sorts of depths would crush a person due to the extreme atmospheric pressure. But we seem to be fine when we jump in with just some goggles and a prayer, so what's up? Well, throughout the facility, we can find entire dossiers dedicated to key locations and items. One such dossier discusses a part of the ocean called Let Van Zone, an area discovered deep in the Norwegian Sea in the early 1960s. Due to a barrier surrounding that area, the Let Van Zone has the same water pressure as your normal swimming pool, despite being located over 18,000 meters deep. According to the file, this caught the attention of the corporation Urban Shade, the same folks that hired us to come to the facility in the first place. They swooped in to secure the area for themselves. But what's more interesting to me is that we've actually seen the same thing happen in our own history. In the 1960s, natural gas was discovered in the Netherlands, and it started a frantic scramble from countries like Norway, UK, and Denmark to lay claim to areas of not the Norwegian Sea, but the Norwegian sector of the neighbouring sea, the North Sea, which, not so coincidentally, is home to its own deep trench, commonly referred to as the Norwegian Trench, or the Norwegian Channel, or my personal favourite,
Your faves. Less. Dips for less. And legends for less. Your fave meals for less. With medium fries and a medium fountain drink.
Figuring out money as a young adult can be a lot. My parents helped me open my first bank account. It gave me independence and set me up early. That's why I love Scotiabank's new preferred package for students and youth. A no-fee checking account made to help students start strong and live fully. Say yes to their richest years.
personal favourite, Yar, the Norway Deep. Now, while companies could not just dive into an ocean and plant a flag on the seafloor like it was a checkpoint, they could bid for drilling licenses from the countries that had coasts along the North Sea. And after much drilling, one of the companies that attained a license from the Norwegian government, the Phillips Petroleum Company, later discovered the largest oil deposit in the North Sea, now called the Ekofisk oil field. This region has one of the largest oil caches in the world, and in fact has so much oil that the same company, now branded the ConocoPhillips, is there to this day with a license to drill until 2048. All of this is identical to what we're seeing with Urban Shade in the 1960s, with them claiming the lead van zones. From here, Urban Shade is extracting resources from this area they're calling the Ridge in the lead van zone. We even see them revolutionizing energy in the region, just like Phillips did with its discovery of the Ekofisk oil field. Urban Shade's version is just way cooler because, you know, crystals. However, this crystal wasn't just sitting on the seafloor waiting to be dug up. According to classified documents about the Ridge, we can find that this video is sponsored by Factor? Wait, how did they know? Well, maybe it's because Factor would be the perfect option for all the players trying to survive down here. When you have monsters chasing you constantly, every minute counts. There isn't time to prepare a proper tasty meal, but with Factor, you get high quality, nutritionally balanced, pre-made meals that can be ready to eat in just 2 minutes. And Factor puts the control into your hands with 35
Why are you
options to
sticky?
choose from, as well as snacks,
Are you
breakfast,
leaking?
smoothies, and juices. So if you're tired of eating whatever random mutated fish happens to be swimming by, you can just let Factor know that you don't want to include fish, and they'll deprioritize it in your next shipment. Easy. Plus, Factor now offers Gourmet Plus meals featuring premium ingredients like truffle butter, shrimp, and is that filet mignon in this economy? Yes. And it's good too. Not dry or tough even after reheating. So if you're looking to survive in a bunker 2,000 feet under the sea, or if you just want to have some tasty and affordable meals in the comfort of your own home, then head on over to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50GameTheory to get 50% off, plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's 50GameTheory at FACTOR75.com for 50% off plus free shipping. But now that my body is fully fed, it's time to feed my brain with some more lore. Let's see what this classified document can tell us about the Ridge. In 1967, after the discovery of Thor's corpse and subsequently Z1, the crystal, the Ridge was chosen as its new home. And to be clear, Thor's corpse isn't just a clever name they gave to a rock formation or something. They're talking about the actual Norse god. In one of the rooms of the facility, you can find this big green hammer surrounded by lightning, and it's called Thor's hammer. It even says that it's too heavy to carry. This Thor they're talking about is the real deal. It's also an interesting choice of words. After the discovery of Thor's corpse and subsequently Z1. So first of all, I guess rip Thor. But secondly, by discovering Thor's corpse, they also discovered the crystal. So what is the connection between these two things? Was he wearing some sort of cosmic crystal bling? Was he using the crystal as some sort of powerful energy source? Or was it just a cosmic souvenir keychain he picked up on his way out of existence? Well, given that Pressure has already used some pretty direct connections to real-world history with its location, let's see if real-world history has anything to say about crystals from this area. Lo and behold, yes it does. If you take a look back at Nordic, and specifically Viking history, you'll find that crystals actually played a big role in those who worshipped the Norse gods like Thor. You see, jewelry was used for much more than just show for the Vikings. Crystals served different uses for people and were used to attract good fortune. And also, the crystal we see in the game, you can see that it is a light pinkish colour, which is most commonly associated with rose quartz. This type of crystal in Nordic history was associated with healing, especially emotional healing, and is often referred to as the heart crystal. And when you take a closer look at the crystal, it also looks strikingly similar to an actual heart. It has an asymmetrical shape, which is rather unlike the symmetry we'd find in stereotypical crystal, and it has tubes on either end, just like the aortic valves on the top and the inferior vena cava on the bottom. I also don't think it's a coincidence that the crystal now sit at the very center of the logo for Urban Shade itself and is housed in the heart of the facility, powering everything throughout the black site. All of these signs point us in one direction. It looks like rose quartz, which is associated with the heart. It's shaped like a heart and it's found with the corpse of Thor. I'm just gonna say it. This thing is the actual heart of Thor. He is a god after all. We don't know whether their bodies are like ours or something else entirely. And honestly, it being his literal heart explains a lot, like why it's glowing with god-tier power. Nothing says power source like the literal heart of the god of thunder, now just being casually hauled around in a leaky substation swamped with monsters. It's no wonder the company wants the crystal back so badly. They literally had the power of a Norse god in their hands. And this, my friends, set the stage for Urban Shade to start branching out into different ventures. You see, every time you die in this game, you wake up in a dark room to meet the shining eyes of one of the game's main characters, Sebastian, who hands you a full-on document revealing specific details about the monster that just killed you. Problem is, most of it is classified, as in the information is covered in black bars, at least at first. The more times you die from said monster, the more information is revealed, which is kind of a sweet deal for us lore hunters, and I am determined to die my way to the truth. So by dying a bajillion times,
Haven't gone anywhere. Haven't gone anywhere. Stupid commercials. McDonald's one. Didn't do anything fun this summer.
a bajillion times, we learn that over the next 50 years, years following the initial discovery of the crystal, Urban Shade began creating and refining experimental weapon initiatives, like the BUPWM program, where they turn bull sharks into the monster eye infestations that can telepathically compel their victims to
Why am I hitting myself in the face lately with this? I've never hit myself in the face doing this.
Alien life form they acquired from a meteor in 1991 using the alien acid bullets. Now, thankfully, there aren't any rogue oil companies that started conducting weapons experiments underwater that we know of. Urban Shade's actions are reminiscent of very real government organizations, especially those carrying out covert and morally questionable experimentation during that same time.
Humans are the worst.
During the Cold War, the US and USSR were looking for any means necessary to tactically one another. The CIA enacted Project MK Ultra, a program that sought to control the human mind through the utilization of drugs like LSD, conducting their experiments on, wait for it, prisoners. Of course, they weren't able to actually control minds. Instead, they just destroyed lives and did lasting, permanent damage to those test subjects who survived. And once again, this is exactly what we're seeing with Urban Shade. The only difference is that they've not been found out yet. But given MK Ultra did eventually get caught due to some poor paperwork filings, I wouldn't be as confident as they are.
No one is going to believe you anyway.
Especially when you've got Sebastian here giving us all of your secret files, because just like MK Ultra, he too was once a human experiment that is now suffering the long-term consequences. According to his entries in 2013, Sebastian Solis was convicted of murder, and he was going to be put to death. That is, until Urban Shade decided he would be a great candidate for their top secret experiments. And you can see how far they were willing to go, because you don't exactly grow a whale tail just by eating your vitamins. Clearly, Urban Shade's human gills experiment was a success, allowing Sebastian to breathe underwater, and he was then relegated to the subaquatic maintenance team thereafter. However, Urban Shade later discovered that Sebastian was wrongfully convicted, but they just chose to keep that information from him. Classy, Urban Shade, real classy. Now, you'd think despite the horrible experimentation, Sebastian basically had a cozy 9-to-5 maintenance gig, fixing cables and offering motivational quotes between near-death experiences. But no, we learned from his file that after feigning the effects of anesthesia, Z13 Sebastian tended to succumb and woke up unguarded during transport, and proceeded to release as many monsters as possible from their containment cells, causing a site-wide lockdown. That's right, the man who debriefs us after every one of our deaths in the game is responsible for all of them to begin with. And no wonder, right? This is an innocent man who got absolutely wrecked by a shadowy organization, turned into an eel whale Jack Cousteau, and then tossed into the underwater equivalent of IT support. I'd be bad too. Though his motivation for sabotaging the facility makes sense, it turns out he might not actually.
Twisted Tea fans love summer and the smooth, refreshing taste of Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea.
I don't know if I can get that out without. I have to go inside.
Don't take our word for it. Ask our fans. Twisted Tea. Good times with a twist.
Actually be acting alone. After our first demise, Sebastian tells us that he's simply following orders, and the disclosure is sus to say the least. He was very specific about how much information I could share with you though. It's stupid, I know, his orders, not mine. He basically just shrugs and says, sorry, boss's orders. Who is the boss? Well, take a closer look in the background. Do you see it? A pair of eyes on the left-hand side of the screen constantly staring.
Ooh, I love the Delusion period.
These aren't just any eyes.
Like the Dunkelosius is my favorite from the Delusion.
The monsters we encounter during the game. If
Our,
you stray too far in multiplayer and get left behind by your squad, you encounter something weird, like a mysterious suit-wearing shadow man with a cane.
Whatchamacallit around here is Devonian, or rock formations, but it's not suitable for fossils, so you don't find anything good.
However, if the damage is enough to kill you, you'll be debriefed by Sebastian once again. At least you'll get to learn something about him, right? Not this time!
Alright, what was it? Oh. Old Navy, the destination for dinner.
Slouchy. Extra high. Barrel. And vintage slim.
At these prices, cut them all.
It's Old Navy.
Is that one of your favorite from the Devonian? Oh, if you ever get up to Cape Breton, in Canada, there is a museum there, fossil museum. It's got like a lot of fossils in, from like a lot of its plant material, because it's before the dinosaurs. Oh, yeah.
Controlling how much information we get to learn, and he doesn't want us learning anything.
Split ones. I think they're all round, unfortunately. This is the biggest one I have.
Not just names, they're like underwater resumes with a DC comic flair. Sebastian wasn't just fixing pipes, he was the handyman. And after unleashing monster mayhem, he got promoted to the saboteur. Even the creatures get in on the branding.
I don't know, what do you think? The red eye or the
smoker, thanks to its charming habit of
split one?
like a chimney. So when you first encounter Mr. Lopi, and we see that he is known as the mysterious benefactor,
I'm gonna go with this one, because I just wanted more.
One, this guy is a big deal. And two, you're probably about to regret meeting him. In case you don't know, a benefactor is someone or something that provides help or an advantage, especially a person who makes a gift. So this means Mr. Lopi likely gave something to Urban Shade at some point.
Both the ears are like that, so it must be.
Another helpful clue about our mysterious and murderous benefactor comes from Precious creator Zeal, who revealed Mr. Lopi died sometime in the 1960s, which means he was around when Urban Shade was just getting started with the building of the Hadal Black site in the lead fan zone. But the most revealing information about Mr. Lopi comes from his iconic badge, his ability to no-clip through walls, and his similar bell jingle. Because all of these things are shared with another fictional character from something called the Interloper ARG. The Interloper ARG is a web series related to Half-Life and other Valve franchises, where a mysterious man holding an umbrella pursues and kills characters for trespassing in parts of the game that are normally inaccessible, just like Mr. Lopi is doing with players who are lagging too far behind. And the similarities between Umbrella Man and Mr. Lopi don't stop there. The Umbrella Man character is modeled on the G-Man from Half-Life. As we covered in a very old theory, the G-Man is a creature known as a Nihilith, disguised as a human. Now, Nihiliths are an alien species that have a slew of powers, including the ability to teleport, which we see Mr. Lopi doing when he catches us lagging behind our group, even creating the signature burst of green light that G-Man is famous for in the Half-Life games. Nihiliths can also manipulate time and space by placing folks in and out of stasis dimensions. This explains why we're able to die in a facility over and over again, replaying the same day repeatedly like we're in some sort of time loop. With the Nihilith's powers of time and space manipulation, Mr. Lopi can take us to a different dimension after we die, sit us down with Sebastian for a snarky TED talk on the reasons for our failure, and then send us back to try again. But the biggest lore connection is that the G-Man is responsible for supplying an experimental facility with a mysterious and extremely powerful crystal. Coincidence? Please. This evidence suggests that Mr. Lopi, much like other experiments in this facility, is actually an all-powerful alien species. One who yanked Thor's heart out of his chest like the High Priest in Temple of Doom and gifted it to Urban Shade in 1967, making him their mysterious benefactor. Sure, the game's creator said Mr. Lopi died in the 1960s, but when you have the power to control time and space, death is more of a technicality, isn't it? And judging by Mr. Lopi's ongoing work with Sebastian, it appears he has more in store for Urban Shade. Will he be trying to shut the whole thing down like we predicted with MK Ultra, giving us more files to blow this whole thing wide open? Or is he only going to make things worse? I guess we'll just have to wait and see in future updates. In the meantime, theorists, remember, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching. World premiere on Game Theory. One of these characters is the key to all the lore inside Roblox Forsaken.
Wait, I thought I clicked on one of the Roblox ones.
Seeker of the Mimic is finally here, and it changes everything. Our understanding of the books, our understanding of the timeline, and our understanding of the characters we've come to know over the last 11 years. But as always, I'm here to pull an Afton, or an Edwin, as it turns out, and put it all back together.
Pisses me off I don't have a bigger one. I'm gonna have to go with the bloody
Hello,
one.
Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's
There.
jaw has been hanging
That
open
one.
like a badly made Chica costume ever since the release of FNAF's Secret of the Mimic. And I'm not alone in that feeling. Every single YouTuber has been completely sideswiped by this game. Chica! I can't believe we got Chica! Hey! Oh my god, there she is! That's insane! Why has it taken us all by surprise? Well, besides the fact the game actually works, mostly, it also did something that is completely unheard of in a FNAF game. They actually gave us a story. And I don't mean the super cryptic kind that we have to spend years and years figuring out. I mean the kind that actually helps us move forward in this franchise. For a long time, the community has been frustrated with the lack of clarification out there for the series. It's been years of theory upon theory upon theory. And while we have come to certain agreements for parts of it, there are still massive sections of the lore that we haven't been able to agree on simply because there's never really been a solid foundation to jump off of. But now, after 11 years of this franchise, Secret of the Mimic came as the earliest entry in the FNAF timeline and said, guys, I got you. Giving us relatively clear breakdowns of how the early years of Fazbear came to be, as well as throwing a bunch of hand cranks into the works that make us question everything we knew about this franchise. There's timelines that have been displaced, character personas completely shattered, and understandings of where the future of this franchise is going totally flipped on its head. And I intend to theorize about all of it in a 3-part series across the next month or so, focusing on the 3 main characters from this new game. The newcomer Edwin Murray and his family, the big bad Mimic, and, of course, Fazbear Entertainment, William Afton and Henry. All of that will then be followed up with a live talkback with a bunch of other FNAF theorists to discuss the game, our differing theories, and generally just talking about the franchise that we've all enjoyed for so long. Dates for that are TBD right now, so make sure you're subscribed so that when I do announce it, you'll be the first to know. And to make sure you don't miss all of the crazy theories leading up to it, because believe me, you don't want to miss them. There are some real bombshells in this game that I want to explore. But for now, let's start from the beginning. We jump into the game as a lowly mechanic working for the wonderful as always Fazbear Entertainment. Our name is Arnold, and we've just gotten off of a 36-hour shift, only to be called in for one last job. Help recover some Fazbear assets from one of their contractors, Edwin Murray. Begrudgingly, we head to Murray's costume manor, only to discover the asset is a set of blueprints for a killer animatronic endoskeleton that can fit into any costume and learn the role of any character or person, the Mimic. We gain access to different areas of the facility by upgrading our data diver with different permissions, from basic to security, repair, all the way up to executive privileges, all while trying to outrun or outweight the Mimic. He's going for it. Eventually, we get our hands on the blueprints,
Stay over
only
there
to
for a
discover
minute.
that it wasn't Fazbear talking to us through dispatch. It was the Mimic pretending to be them to get their hands on the data diver. This leads to one of 3 endings where we either escape and get killed by the Mimic, we escape and get killed by the Mimic, or we fix the Mimic and then just stand there watching it sleep. Now, these guys deserve an episode of their own because whichever one is canon could have massive implications that I just don't have time to get into right now. Instead, let's turn our attention to the stuff we can discover during the game. And the first of our big 3 characters, Edwin Murray.
It's giving Don't Feed It After Midnight. Those who know.
Read the books, then that name isn't
I'm
anything
tempted to leave
new.
it black.
Edwin Murray is
It's
a
not
character that we were introduced to in both the storyteller and the
good.
Mimic from the Tales from the Pizza
It's pretty
Place
scratched up
His
though.
company was
I
bought
don't
out by
have any
Fazbear.
other
He created the Mimic to
eyes to
babysit his
replace
son
it with.
David, but his son tragically died. And because the Mimic kept mimicking his dead son, he beat the thing up, teaching it violence, and then showed up 40 years later trying to stop it. However, when the Secret of the Mimic's creative director, Evan Lampe, said to Dorco,
If you've read the books, you don't know the full story.
he wasn't kidding. The story of Edwin goes so much deeper and is so much more tragic than we could have ever realized. As Arnold explores Murray's costume manor, we can find audio recordings and mailboxes containing digital text logs that give us the real story of what happened to this place. It was originally owned by Edwin's father, who we'll call Murray Sr. Edwin Murray works for him.
Edwin Murray. This is my dad's place.
You know, because nepotism. But Edwin is the quirky inventor type, and to test out his new voice recorder creation, he seeks out one of the new employees and former puppeteers.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know why it's like that, but it's annoying.
Can I borrow your voice for a project? Oh, what for? I don't even know you. I'm brand new here. Let's start again. I'm Fiona.
Murray Sr. then passes away and leaves the whole thing to Edwin, who rebrands everything during his wacky...
Brian? Good start.
Together with Fiona, they invent a bunch of learn your coffee preferences to make the perfect cup. A coat hanger. Just look at him with his tiny little wound and his little donkey. Anyway, alongside this, he's also making which I suppose makes sense, given that's the name of the business. The characters we see are... We see a handful of characters that you might recognize, like Pirate, Cowgirl, Roxy, Hillbilly Monty, a pirate Foxy, and the big one, a rollerblading costume of Chica. That's freaking...
Let's party.
She really was the first, wasn't she? But besides Chica, who Edwin and Fiona were specifically hired to make for a client, Chica's Party World, yes, that Chica's Party World, all of these other characters were rentable or purchasable from Murray's Costume Manor, meaning Edwin owned
Isn't this
these
exciting?
characters. They weren't originally Fazbear's. However, Fazbear was around as another one of Edwin's clients, taking interest in his technological genius, even to the point Edwin refers to Henry as simply Hen in the
I'm fucking bored.
presumably because they have a level of familiarity.
No. Show.
Okay. Here we go.
The house was ablaze as I departed. I set off into the deepest crevices of the abyss,
This is very soft.
leaving all behind. Not knowing what I was to find, I took the plunge straight into the darkness. And what lay there, deep at its heart, shook me to my core.
House kind of looks
I may have
Japanese.
abandoned all my fears, but they have not forgotten me.
Well, that is it for now, folks. But make sure you stay tuned because we'll be taking your song request. And
Okay. Oh, okay. That's funny. So it wasn't a narrator. He was just listening to something on the radio. Oh, God. Miserable. Ah, get me out of here. I hate the rain. Absolutely hate it. Okay. That's some tough tape. I'll need to cut it open. Someone locked it from the inside. Oh, God. Is there anything? Is there a key under the plant? Okay. At least now I'm out of the rain. Do we have a dog? Routine.
Oh, damn it. I'm gonna use one of the bigger
Okay.
eyes.
Is there a key in
I
there?
don't have any of the fire ones left.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Is this a Japanese game? I don't think so. What is this?
That's what is it really? Mhm.
Ooh, camera. Tab for inventory. Enter to play the tape. Focus on the screen by pressing. Okay. Oh no! They had gasoline. The fuck? Why'd I put the camera away? No, poor doggy. Oh, I can see the dog in the... Oh. That's cool. Doggy, no. Oh, bring back the dog. Damn. Monster dog. The thing. What are we gonna do with the crowbar, though? Surely we're not gonna... Okay. Break down the door. Can I take the ladder? Oh. Hello. Oh, there's a lock on the window. Not anymore. Okay. Ah, finally out of that weather. Oh, flashlight. Nice. I have no idea how to use this thing. Great. Me neither. Drugs. Coffee beans. Salt. No drugs. Something's behind it. Wait. It's getting all staticky again. Does it mean there's something there? Oh, yeah. It's very pixelated. Anyone on the toilet? I wonder why. Let's try and find the key. Do you think we need to, like, make it appear as well? Turn light off, look at the drums. Oh.
Yep.
Oh, there's something here. Oh yeah, now you see this distortion. Oh. Okay. That just happened. What does it mean? Fan was off when the lights were up. Oh! Oh my god. Pretty sneaky. Smart. Small videotape. Bathroom. Oh god. This bathroom? Maybe close the door first. Okay. Ooh. Ooh! Oh, a tile.
Your horns aren't going to be ready tonight. You drive for a minute.
Leading to another key. Okay. Can't open those. Just the front door. No reason to go outside. Okie dokie. Huh? Oh. Were they flipped in the tape?
Where's my black?
Oh, I have no idea. I would have to watch it again. Hold on. Okay. So, flowers on the left. Picture frame in the middle. That makes sense. That person in the bathtub, obviously. Okay. Well, that's that then. You think that...
I don't have enough days.
There was a bit where it was got worse.
Where is the black arm?
Oh, I did it.
What is here for now?
Oh, God. Oh, she's gone. Nice. Attic. Maybe we... Oh, the door's closed. Maybe I should turn back. Uh-oh. Someone is jamming out on those bells, though. Ooh. I like it. So far away. What is it? Another tape. Small tape. Do you want to watch it now? I guess I should. I haven't watched the tests. I should watch the tests first. Salami. Basement. Oh, I didn't check at those things on top of the door.
Okay, I see what you do. I do need something there, but not that
Something.
much.
Tiny person.
In the 60s, the Canada Pension Plan was created to establish a modest but guaranteed benefit for all working Canadians and to help keep seniors out of poverty in retirement. But by the 90s, the number of retirees was going up faster than Canadians working, and someone realized we're going to need more than just contributions to keep the CPP fund going. And so was born CPP Investments. Since then, they've helped grow the fund to over $700 billion, turning the CPP fund into one of the best performing pension funds in the world. Just one more reason we can all be proud to be Canadian.
Excusez-moi. Should I just go all the way back? Oh, it's going a different way. Where'd the music go? Oh, the door's open. Ooh, hello. Got something on there. You wanna dunk this? Fake fruit. Can't. Can only rotate it. Oh wait, do we need to? We need to mimic the thing again. Mimic the video. Who left the fridge open? Ooh, a lamb's head. Look at it, rotated. Gross.
Ooh, that would be good.
Yeah, there's definitely a tape I haven't seen yet.
Did I eat food?
I
I had
was
cheese.
gonna say, how do I get
Does
the
it cheese count supper?
I thought that was a TV. Oh, hello.
This could have
Ooh,
been
records. Oldies.
sturdier.
Snake. Snake! Do 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 do. Tainted Fate. Could be playable somewhere. Hell yeah. Dude is not phased by the bathroom, by the way.
Go.
And set the clock. Another one. Insert record, but I would need to know which one. Oh, she's here.
I like these. They kind of look dead inside.
Oh, it doesn't... Oh. She's so tiny! Nothing is activating, though. Because I probably need to set the time and everything. Another record. So I need to figure out what he was playing. Oh, this is getting complicated. Oh. Oh, here. Oh, here. Ah. Ooh, are those maggots? Oh! Gross. Okay. What would he be playing? 501. Sick Brick. Tainted Fate. Try this one. Yes, that's it. Okay, cool. Let's watch the tape again. Okay, so he's playing that. What's the time? 11:30. Okay. There. That's good. What about the music, though? How do we know which one to play? Was it in tests? Oh, it was. No, that was just the stickers. Okay. That's where we saw the meat.
Meat. Nope, not yet. Like the paint first, and then we go with the teeth.
That music. Okay. What would that be? Oldies, snake, or jazz? Snake?
Snipe, snipe, feather, snipe on the door.
Too crispy. Stop it. Not playing anything.
There's some nice dripping on the island there.
Not here. This is wrong. It's all wrong.
Huh? Leave the house. Oh, so I did it right. Excuse me. Tried to bring back the girl.
Waiting for shit to dry.
Wait, is this whole thing a studio?
There we go.
Are we not actually in a real house? If it's SCP, right? Maybe this whole thing is like a... Yeah! Called it. Just in time.
Class B subordinate 3546. Please approach the intercom.
Coming.
Crap. Forgot your own music from the gymnastics. Hello, D-Class 3546. You work here. This is the SCP Replication Division. We make replicas of anomalous objects and paranormal events. I am the site coordinator. You've run through this scenario over 100 times.
Wow.
Please come to the middle of this hangar. There's a control panel on a raised platform. Next to it is an intercom.
Okay. Can I just fall off? Wait. Oh, cool.
SCP-R9237 reenactment test 179 completed by Class D subordinate number 3546. Restoration of reenactment scene by cleanup crew request filed.
Who are you? What's going on here?
Just calm down, breathe in, breathe out. As I stated previously, I am the site coordinator of the Replication Division's Facility 1. You are a D-Class tester who tests paranormal entities that we have replicated here.
Why would you replicate any of them?
Distraught, fatigued, bloated, and or disoriented, then allow me to provide you an ounce of comfort in saying that's completely normal.
Why don't I remember anything?
Oh, well, that would be the amnestics, of course. They're what you might call forgetting pills. You ingested them prior to the test. We need you as close to a clean slate state each time you go through the test, so as to avoid demonic contamination. Surely you understand? We don't want you staining the house with your own projections now, do we? No. First question. Upon retrieving the bathroom door from the camera's void dimension and entering the bathroom.
At Hyundai, this is what SUV stands for. Safe, uncompromising, valiant.
We'll do another half hour.
What did you encounter?
An ocean? I guess I
Some
should
kind
be
of ocean and
honest.
boundless darkness.
Yes, yes, and in the ocean you found?
Tape of the little girl in the attic.
A tape of the little girl in the attic.
Great. And when you reached the attic and set everything up like in the video, what happened?
Rawr.
Refused to be brought back. She told me to piss off and vanished.
She refused to be brought back.
And that concludes our interview.
Her voice sounds familiar.
Class D subordinate, drop off the item acquired during testing into the duffel bag next to the exit doors. You may carry on with testing after that.
Okay. Where are they?
Where are the exit doors?
Behind you, in the corner of the hangar, big red doors, red light shining above them. Just go on.
Okie dokie.
Site coordinator out. And remember, there is no replication division.
Huh?
There is no rule in Bossing Say.
Who did the music for this game?
They're really jamming on those bells.
Doggy! The dog is okay!
The dog better be okay.
Yay! You're fine, little puppy. That's good.
It's annoying though. The picture's starting to give me a headache.
The music is awesome.
It's a little
Go
pitchy.
home, redacted. It's me.
I'm redacted.
Don't have a flashlight anymore. Did you know?
All right, D-Class, number 3546. Back from another round in the house. Our biggest and most complex SCP replica.
Is that a necklace?
Great work, and keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. Bye. Okay. No canines were harmed during your testing. Potter is safe and sound. Our animatronics team did a great job, right? Yes. That makes me feel much better. Oh, there it is. Hell yeah. Here we go. Hi. Oh, shower. 179? Okay.
Decontamination done. Heavy testing.
Why do I feel like I'm about to be put in a meat grinder? Oh. Oh, there it goes. Whew. Lockdown level. Go through the decontamination process. Code red, code crimson. Lockdown level safe. This is so cool. Oh, Jesus. Oh. Oh my God. You are here. Dr. Shaw. I think I only have one way to go. Hello? -1? Whoa, what happened here? Oh. Do you think we're the SCP?
That's what I was thinking from the beginning.
Maybe this is our huge containment level. There's a deer in there. Oh, these are all SCPs. Banana, bathtub, bucket. Do you guys know any of these? I'm so unfamiliar with SCP. Oh, Annie's office. I have my own office. Ooh. Hello?
Come on. Up on your feet. You're no good to anyone down there. I told them to cool it with the amnestics, but they just love taking advice from security. Let's get you to your office. That feeling in your gut, like you're gonna vomit your insides out, that is, normal. And you've been through this more times than I care to count.
No lasting damage?
Right now, you need to ground yourself. And there's something in your office that'll help you do just that. We call them pathfinders. Personal items that you and only you know the full story of. They'll help you find your bearings.
Excuse me,
Check them out
but...
inside, and everything about this place will start coming back to you real soon. It ain't all happy memories in there. But that's just life, I guess. I'll be waiting here once you're done. See you when you get back. And, almost forgot. I'm John. Hopefully you'll figure that out for yourself.
My name is John SCP. Could we not afford a regular sign for me? Like, what is this? Everyone gets really nice signs, nice font. And they couldn't even spare me a little dignity. Tonight's the night, whatever it takes. Trust the bathtub. Okay.
Wait for that to dry, I guess.
We're gonna trust
That
the
needs a top coat. Those need to wait for the ears. What are you doing?
So this is my office.
I need to find the
After
black
Dad left,
yarn.
I did some things I don't like to think about too much. Got into some real trouble real quick. And when they offered to help, I didn't see any other way of going about it.
In light of your recent offenses and pending incarceration, we are hereby extending an offer. Your medical prowess is evident and will be essential in our attempts to do something. Okay.
Oh, it's in the arm, but not the one I'm
Whoa, Rubik's Cube. That's not gonna work. Ooh.
Dearest Annie, there are things that have been eating away at me for years. I have to try and make it right for both of you. I hope that it's not too late. I will come back to you and make sense of it all. Keep the light on until I get back.
I must have written out a billion
Both of you. Me and who?
No matter how many times I've read it, I still can't figure it out. What could make you leave your only child behind? The note came with this inside. Thanks for the jewels, Dad.
Oh, are you dry yet?
You leaving feel like a breeze.
Okay, that's gonna be important later on then. Do you think Dad is actually one of the scientists who works here?
Original science. This is the most thoughtful gift imaginable for someone trying to get in shape. It's from the Conqueror, and at first it may look like a mere toy medal, but it's actually much more than that. It's a symbol of pride and achievement. You don't just buy this, you need to earn it. First, you choose a challenge from 78 world routes. Then you join in the app, sync your health devices, and start seeing your daily steps on the virtual map. For example, you might be walking around the block, but virtually you're in Paris. When you finish, you get mailed epic medals for the routes you picked. Exercise becomes fun, and your goals become incredibly motivating. You can do this at your own pace. Choose your time frame and select any type of activity you want. Over 300,000 people have been transformed.
I'm not buying anymore.
Keeping each other accountable, these virtual challenges come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. No questions asked, so there's no risk to you. Ready to gift someone?
Oh, stop talking. I don't care.
Look at their mouth.
Shower, sleep, no show for weeks leading up to it. It was a Monday.
First place?
Split the next Thursday. Didn't get much sleep after that neither.
Yeah, I feel like I'm an SCP, and that's why they keep making me... Like, this is maybe also fabricated, so I think I remember, but they just keep resetting me.
A keepsake photo. She died before I got the chance to meet her.
Brace yourself. This.
That was adorable.
ribbon.
Made me spill my soda all over him, but he couldn't stop laughing. I try to catch it whenever it's on at a relative's house.
You find the end of it.
Cute. That was adorable. Okay.
I guess the two of them make all of this seem worthwhile. Couldn't take off the suit even for a photo, could you, John?
I wonder why. Is she holding the banana? She might be. Oh no, I am. I think that's my arm holding the banana. Or is it that croissant?
They've been redacting my reports on the house for some reason.
Let's see. Engage in a debate as heatedly as possible. Desired outcome. To test emotional amplitudes and spikes of each personality. The bathtub was grumpy this time and didn't feel like talking. I retaliated with the following quote. What are you gonna do? Flush me? Take the subject's blood on a weekly basis, coupled with testing the subject's communicative competencies. Blood color matches that of SCP-6448, and the subject is becoming increasingly talkative, although quite morose. 6448 expressed a desire to be called Frank from now on. He also does not seem to be adapting to indoor captivity particularly well. Could that be Dad? Oh wait, debating tub, not deer, and the house, actually. Redacted. Transfer the child from void to containment purposes. Note redacted. What are you gonna do? Flush me? Trust the bathtub.
All done? It's standard procedure to ask you a couple of personal questions. Just to make sure you're all there. I don't mean to pry, but protocol means I'm obliged to. Ready?
I'm ready.
What did your mother leave behind for you?
A locket?
A locket.
What won you the science fair competition?
Oh, I was not paying attention to that. Radio
A
tower?
portable radio tower.
Right. And the last one. Why were you conscripted by the replication
I
division?
was to avoid J-Town. I was too distracted by her smile. Because I'm a badass engineer to work on a secret project.
To avoid jail time?
It is my privilege to conclude that you are of sound body and mind. Welcome back, Annie.
I'm getting some,
Good to be back, I guess.
Blade Runner vibes.
Where is everyone anyway?
There was a little mishap while you were in the house. Frank blew out of here and took a few dozen blocks of concrete with him as well.
You don't say.
Yes, ma'am.
Frank was the nut
And
dealer.
as a little bonus for us, Code Red lockdown. Everyone was evacuated on the spot. Well, everyone except the three of us and a particular pain in the ass. Someone has to stay behind so he can have subordinates to fuck.
Attention! All personnel gather up.
Speak of the devil.
Okay.
Well, if it isn't our very own D-Class 3546 back to her former glory. Considering we're under Code Red lockdown, protocols are paramount. We've had enough of an eventful evening with someone deciding SCP-R-6448 deserved a night on the town. There will be no more mistakes tonight. Your little skeleton crew of 3 is the only personnel remaining on site as per emergency protocol. With that in mind, D-Class 3546, I believe you have a mandatory weapons and safety rebrief to attend. Run along now. Mustn't keep your colleagues waiting.
Ray.
Jesus. Good evening.
My name is Annie, actually.
Do I really need to do this? She knows what my freaking name is.
Safety protocols and regulations are to be followed to the letter.
Good evening. My name is Ray, and I will be performing the mandatory weapons and safety rebrief as prescribed by the SCP Replication Division's Safety and Regulatory Protocol. I will now commence with the rebrief.
Wonderful. Now get to it.
He always stops listening at this point. Yada, yada, yada. Don't blow your brains out with a firearm. Kinda obvious, but hey. Don't mistake SCP-2950 for SCP-396. And I think we're done. Congratulations, you are now officially rebriefed. Weapons and safety-wise.
I can't believe just how much safer I feel already.
Good. And for that, you get a cookie.
Wow.
In the
I
form
like
of
cookies.
this beautiful level 1 key card that'll get you into replica testing.
That's not a cookie.
I'd say not spend it all in one place, but that's kind of the point.
No cookie.
I like cookies.
Oh, that's my cue. With everyone evacuated, guess I'm the designated power generator fixer. See you around.
Okay.
You have your next assignment for the night. A pestering nuisance, but an assignment nonetheless. SCP-R-1974 awaits in the replication testing area.
Code red.
You'll be testing for speech patterns, syntax, and personality disorders. Seemingly a simple task, but one that takes a heavy mental toll. Make sure to forward all my animosities.
Interesting color choices for this bathroom. Why did this open up? I can't do anything here. Well, let's go have a look. Out of commission. Uh-oh. So the bathtub is in here? Toggle text. Actually, I can just read this. 354 is a pool of red liquid discovered in northern Canada. The liquid is of a consistency similar to that of human blood, hence the colloquial name blood pond. But it is not of a biological nature. The liquid becomes denser as one descends deeper into the pool. Periodically, entities emerge from the pool and attempt to escape from the enclosure. Thus far, nearly all creatures emerging from 354 have been extremely hostile and highly dangerous. 354 is believed to have been first discovered in something by survivors of a plane crash. 354 had developed into a local urban legend long before Foundation personnel arrived to deal with the threat. At 14:03 hours on something, an unidentified entity emerged from 354. Mobile Task Force was dispatched to deal with the entity and were eventually successful. All personnel at Watch Station Epsilon 38 were found dead. Area 354 was subsequently constructed to contain 354. Oh, so they got their own area. Wait, what's that? Oh. Taking a bucket of 354 and locking it into a room is not replication, it's idiocy. Ooh, do you think they can travel between the two then? All ongoing efforts to replicate 354 by way of the replication system have resulted in failure. Since 354 is constantly growing, the coordinator has decided that taking a small portion of 354 and relocating it into the replication division would essentially mean it has been successfly replicated. 354 has yet to exhibit an object emerging from it. Further testing required. That's the bucket! Oh, I can jump. The blood bucket. Okay. Is this the bathtub? Safe. 1974, a freestanding ceramic bathtub typical of the kind sold in the United States from the 1930s through 1960s. When recovered, it contained 124 liters of water. Any substance added to the water inside 1974 will be drained or filtered out through unknown means. When a subject makes contact with the water inside 1974, they will immediately begin to hear two voices. One voice, hereby designated 1974-1, has been described as that of an American male about 85 years of age. That's old. The other voice, hereby designated 1974-2, has been described as a male with a thick Russian accent of around the same age. The former claims to be 1974, while the latter claims to be the water filling 1974. Oh! 1 and 2 appear to dislike each other and are described as debating constantly. The debates between 1 and 2 are about capitalism, communism, and the historical and current states of the United States of America, the Soviet Union, and China. Original researcher Devereaux? Yeah. That's funny. Base bathtub created using identical materials are used for bathtubs from 1974's era. Water sourced from 1974's recovery location. After running bathtubs through the replication system, 1974 created successfully. Okay. I still don't know why you would want to make more SCPs. Commissioned a series, commissioned a series of tests of 1974 and 1974 in parallel. Oh, so the R is replicant. Ah, okay. So the original and the replicated one were tested in parallel, with the bathtubs being asked identical questions. The testing has concluded that 1974 has assumed completely different personalities. So the replicated one has different personalities in the bathtub? Oh. 1974. Okay, wait, let's, I want to read all of the SCPs in here. Oh, bananas!
Look at them.
Oh my god, this is a lot. Okay.
Dutch snack taste test. My husband and I try snacks together from a different country every month
Are you
at
dry
Universal
yet?
Yums. Last month was Colombia. This month we got the Netherlands. And these are our rating.
First up, these Gouda onion garlic cheese puffs.
Just wow. 10 out of 10 flavor. During our movie night, we opened this bag of salted caramel popcorn. I thought
Let's give it another try.
yummy, nice and crunchy. 11 out of 10.
Stoop waffles.
I never had one covered in chocolate before. My husband is a Twix person, so he gave it an 8 out of 10. I was more into these gummy snacks and the speculoos.
Okay. 3521 is the group designation for 16 pharmaceutical gel tablets created by an amateur parapharmacologist in affiliation with an unknown assassin. Shortly after consumption of 3521, an extremely large number of unpeeled bananas will begin to manifest in the subject's stomach. Oh no. It is believed this volume of bananas is intended to cause an acute lethal dose of ionizing radiation. While bananas do contain trace amounts of radioactive potassium, the quantity manifested induces that more obvious causes of death of exsanguination, suffocation, or in most confirmed cases, gross crush trauma from 9.15 million kilograms of bananas manifesting within the subject's stomach. Holy shit. Discovery and testing. 3521 was discovered after a shootout between the Atlanta Police Department and individuals connected to a heroin manufacturing ring. During investigation, a bag containing 3521 was discovered along with a burner phone. Contents of the messages contained on this cell phone are: new job is in. I need something from you. What you looking for? When I worked with Little B, he usually got me plutonium. No plutonium. What? Plutonium 2, easy to trace. Need to be discreet. No plutonium. What do you have in mind? Potassium. How is potassium any more discreet than plutonium? Easy to hide. We'll use banana. Oh, banana. Radioactive? Yes. I know you're supposed to be some kind of savant, but I don't know about this. Are you sure that radioactive bananas are more discreet than plutonium? Because I feel like they aren't. You tell me. You see plutonium on the ground and you see banana. Which you more worried about? I get that, but again, it's going to be a lot of bananas, right? Or just one really radioactive one? You need to learn to trust Dado. Banana just as effective as plutonium. Plus, you can't trace banana. Who does finger get pointed at? Grocery store? Okay, just wasn't sure. Good. You trust Dado and everything be okay. No worry. Banana even better than plutonium.
You're not going to get done tonight because you need to try on the inside and you're so...
During processing at Site 92, D28491 was chosen for testing. Based on recovered video footage, after roughly 30 minutes, the test subject briefly complained about intense stomach pain before expanding rapidly and disappearing under a quickly growing mass of bananas. The testing chamber was consumed in seconds, and a significant portion of the site's lower levels were destroyed in minutes. Dangerous bananas!
I'd love to finish you.
Fraction of a tablet of 3521 has been administered to another subordinate. 5324, that's not me, right? Same digits, but scrambled, I think. Upon consumption, the recipient has indeed begun expanding rapidly and has disappeared under a quickly growing mass of bananas. The number of bananas is roughly the size our researchers have predicted. Cleanup crew for the production of the tablets have been approved. Approved? Why? Okay. This one is dark. Safe. A 9174 appears to be a 2003 model handheld camera recorder with an additional non-factory feature. While viewing surroundings through the camera's viewfinder, objects classified as displacements can be seen. Sounds emitted from displacements can be heard through the speaker. But these objects do not seem to exist outside of the viewfinder since they cannot be physically interacted with in any way in our reality. So that's the camera we've been using, right? Bringing 9174 close to the user's eyes while pointing it at a displacement in close proximity for 3 seconds triggers an unexplained event, bringing the displacement into existence. These retrieved objects display some discrepancies with their former displaced versions, as seen through the viewfinder. For instance, a retrieved telephone might ring at a slightly different pitch. Based on the tapes procured along with 9174, it is evident that recording traumatic events with 9174 transfers objects into the void between, a reality separate from ours. This results in the creation of displacements. Okay.
Too long, that's
Whoa,
a
this
problem.
has a lock on it.
Alright, quickly now.
I don't have a flashlight, unfortunately. Whoa.
There we go. Add more to the problem. There we go. Much better.
What is this?
Returning to the crime scene, are we?
What?
I know you had something to do with this. I can't prove it, but I can't
Euclid.
either. Rest assured that your friend will be caught, and he will squeal. If your name comes up as even a passing thought in between his screams of agony, you will be keeping him company in that cell. I promise you that.
Honestly, I have no idea what's going on, but... Euclid is... How dangerous is that one? Very dangerous? And then this is Keter. An anomalous branch of the Cervidae deer family. Oh, this is not deer. All members of this group display heightened intelligence and are presumed to be sapient. Many specimens exhibit some form of physical malformation. Legs bent backwards, jerky movements, tendency to walk on 2 hind legs, general bodily disfigurement. 6448 are known to watch, observe, and stalk humans, often for hours or days. An incident happened. On the 29th of November 2019, green stags successfully detained and captured an instance of SCP-6448. The following is a log of the events. Researcher Oz. Greetings, 6448. The instance suddenly bolts upright and stares at the intercom. 6448. Research. The instance speaks in a distorted version of Oz's own voice. Research? What kind of? 1947. Okay, we're going into the past. The instance suddenly rams the 20-inch thick one-way glass, cracking it slightly. The instance begins to collapse. It contorts violently and begins screaming. Its abdomen bulges and writhes. A black, viscous, tenderly mass erupts out of the instance side. It leaps and squirms around the cell before shattering the window. The remaining carcass is entirely hollow. The tenderly mass swiftly maneuvers outside of Sector 4 in seconds, clearing the lockdown area. Travels in the direction of the main exit. The mass clears the main desk. It shatters the glass on the front exit and disappears into the outside shrubbery. So whatever was in the deer making it talk escaped. Taking a normal deer through the replication system has resulted in the successful creation of a 6448 replica. Replica 6448 exhibits the same physical attributes and deformations as observed in the original. Precautions are taken when dissecting the first replica in the case of the sentient black liquid trying to escape. This turned out to not be needed since anomalous benign white liquid was found inside the replica instead. Oh, so it's like a yin and yang, black and white liquid. It seems to be non-sentient. So they made an inferior deposit items. They made an inferior replica.
And it could fit this.
This is in lockdown. Euclid. That's the dangerous one, right? Euclid means dangerous, manageable. Keter means very dangerous and hard to contain. Thank you, Hazard. Very fitting that your name is Heat Hazard. Okay. So this flamingo is dangerous. 1507 is the collective designation given to 30 plastic lawn flamingos. Their behavior often results in attacks targeted towards Foundation staff. The only individual known to circumvent their behaviors is POI 1507.
Like, I have this guy, I just don't know where his head is.
Following are phone logs recovered from Leroy's phone. following the acquisition of 1507. Text messages between Leroy and Mark Farman. Leroy says, "It's fine. What's up, dude? Well, you keep your flamingos inside. Yeah, they don't really like the rain." "What do you mean?" "They just don't like it. It gets inside them and bothers them and all that stuff." "Dude, I know you've been obsessed with them recently, but you realize they're not real, right?" "No, they move and play with me. I just want you to see the flamingos." "Fine, dude, I'm coming." "See, I told you they play. I don't know why they don't like you. I guess they're overprotective of you. I'm sorry, this wasn't meant to happen." On, what is that? 8th of March, 2012? Or wait, is it American? Is it like 3rd of August? A 911 call was received in the Clay County area. Foundation agent was sent out. When arriving on scene, the agent reported Leroy attempting to unsuccessfully resuscitate another man, who was later identified as Mark, that had multiple stab wounds presumably caused by the flamingo. They're very protective of Leroy. Replication successful. The pink flamingo replicas have a tendency to multiply when not observed. Oh, is there going to be more in a bit? Similar to their original counterparts, they also seem to be able to inexplicably escape confinement and replicate throughout the facility. Some instances of 1507's replica have been located outside of the facility. An MTF task force has been sent to terminate these instances. Termination successful. In case a member of the replication division locates a rogue flamingo, they are to immediately terminate the flamingo instance by way of blunt force. Damn. Beat the shit out of it.
I don't need it now, but I found it.
Still just the one. Okay, let me go back to bathtub. Ooh. Hello. View active objectives. Oh, wow. Reveal the Jesus sticker optional. Oh, shit. We did see those stickers at the door. Test the bathtub. Okay. How do we test it?
Nope.
Inject liquid. Place points. Oh, there.
Oh, I love when you do that. It's like a balm for this washed out skin.
What?
Kisses.
Oh, I want to use that teddy bear, but I don't have a head for it.
Kill you at the kiss ass for just a single second.
It's not big enough. I really want to use this teddy bear. I don't know what I did with the head. I don't think I used it for anything. I don't think I used it for anything.
We had a deal not to burden others with our internal squabbles. It would seem, however,
I remember seeing the head.
deal no longer stands.
Yes, I remember it.
I will not allow yet another night to revolve around you and your cynicism. Come here, Annie. Let us continue this discussion in private.
That's funny.
It might be done anyway.
Own a design studio.
I got a few things done and a few things started, so I'm going to call that a night. Thank you guys for stopping by. Monitoring and murder all the childhood dreams there. And I will see you in the next one. Have a good night.